I, like many others that are watching this video right now, shot up out of my bed after getting the notification on the West Coast this morning around 7:40, 7:30 that Derek Carr was going to be retiring. Now, it's been pretty well documented on my channel through various videos, whether talking about him when he was on the Raiders, whether talking about him when he was on the Saints. I never was really a huge fan of Derek Carr. The stats were always there. The numbers were always there. But it always felt like something was missing with his game. Even in mentioning that, this just feels like this wasn't the result that Derek Carr really deserved. And it does feel like to me, it really ever since Kellen Moore was hired back in, I believe, February or maybe it was even early March after the Eagles won the Super Bowl, it really felt like after that moment, we were getting a lot more news that was kind of detrimental to the status of Derek Carr. We didn't know if he was going to play this year. We didn't know if he was even going to be on the team this year. We really didn't know due to what guys like Kellen Moore, guys like Mickey Loomis, guys in the New Orleans Saints organization, and Derek Carr himself, we just didn't know what the deal was. And for this to be the final result, it's pretty shocking. And it's pretty, it's weird to think where we were at the end of last year, where, yes, Derek Carr had injury issues last year as well. And this was, it's kind of a recurring theme for Derek these last few years where he's had injuries, upper and lower body, even, a multitude of back issues as well. But it never really felt like during the season last year that retirement was going to be in play. It just felt like, he was going to be on the mend. We were going to come back in 2025 and he was going to be trying to lead this team to the playoffs again. And so I think there's a few things to address first before going any further. First is the money implications. And to be honest, I don't know the full, how this is going to affect the books for New Orleans and how this is really going to affect the money, to affect the amount of money that Derek Carr is going to receive. There is a tweet I'm going to put up from Ian Rappaport, who he was the first person I saw break this story of Derek Carr retiring. He usually is pretty on the money with these types of things in terms of financial implications. He mentions that the $30 million that was due to Derek Carr this year now gets wiped off, and Derek Carr still also gets the $10 million in the roster bonus. But Derek Carr had a pretty lucrative contract ahead of him past this year as well. So I don't know how that affects. I just really don't know how that affects the future of the Saints. And to be honest, like I said, I don't want to make this a video about bashing Derek Carr, but Derek Carr's contract was one of the reasons the future of the Saints was looking somewhat bleak, because he still had multiple void years after 2026. And in 2026, Derek Carr was going to be owed almost $70 million. He was going to count against the cap, almost $70 million. So I don't know how that changes. Now that question is out of the way, that's probably the least important question. The most important question now is, who's it going to be between Tyler Shuck, Spencer Rattler, and Jake Haener? I think we all know it's not going to be Jake Haener. I think that's probably the easiest answer we know. I do wonder, I don't think you draft Tyler Shuck in the second round and you make him the number 4 quarterback drafted in the 2025 NFL draft after Dart, after Ward. I guess he was the number 3 quarterback. But regardless, I don't think you make him a second round quarterback if you still think Spencer Rattler can be something. So I think it probably ends up being Tyler Shuck. Whether or not that's a good idea or not, I don't know. Because now this quarterback room doesn't have a vet. I don't know if any incapacity Derek Carr is still going to be around the team, if he still wants to have his voice heard, or if he still wants to mentor these guys at all. I'm sure even if he's not in the building, he still will be in contact with all three of these guys in some sort of capacity. But there's not going to be somebody in the building doing the drills with these guys, going over, the day-to-day quarterback mechanisms. And that's going to hurt these guys. And so I would almost think New Orleans, you go out there and try to get whoever is a veteran quarterback that's still available. You look at who could possibly be available, and it's not like there is a ton of options. I mean, really, even the options that are available, these aren't guys that are looking to go to a rebuilding team. If you're talking about Carson Wentz or Teddy Bridgewater, or even CJ Beathard, I don't think these are guys that want to just go sit and be the number 2 or number 3 quarterback on a really bad team. So that's kind of where the timing of this, again, I brought up earlier, the timing of this is a little bit confusing to me, because it feels like since Kellen Moore got hired, they kind of knew something was up. And now we're at this stage after the draft, after free agency is pretty much over, and everybody's roster is pretty much finalized. The only way New Orleans gets a veteran quarterback on their team is if they trade for one. I would really, honestly, not be shocked at all if they just call New York, if they call the Giants as soon as the league year starts, as soon as they're able to trade for him, and ask about Jameis. Or, somebody like Jameis who would A, improve the hopes and the spirits of this team, but B, also be a good mentor to these quarterbacks. And he has some experience being a second, third quarterback in the New Orleans system as well. All in all, again, I don't know for sure if I believe that we've seen the last of Derek Carr on a football field. Derek Carr still is only in his mid-30s. I think, yes, he's not the best quarterback in the NFL. He's not even, he's not even top 10. But he could be a guy if you put a good team around him. We've seen it in his past. If you put a good team around him, block well on the offensive line, and have a defense that can be complementary, he can lead a team to a decent record, and he could be a guy that pushes their team into playoff contention. So I don't know if we've seen the last of Derek Carr. This feels more to me like the New Orleans Saints wanted to get his money off the books. They wanted to reset. They wanted to reset at the position. Like I said, they drafted Tyler Shuck. They still even have Spencer Rattler on the roster. And so even though I don't think there's belief in Rattler to be the number 1, there's probably some sort of belief in him to be a number 2 quarterback for this team, with Tyler Shuck as the number 1. And getting back to Derek Carr, I don't think we've seen the last of him. If we have, I do think it's kind of sad, because this is a guy a lot of people like. This is a guy that on the rosters he's been on, he's been pretty well liked in his locker rooms that he's been in. He's never really been a guy to, I say I don't like him. I don't think he really ruffles many people's feathers. I think he has some emotion, and I think he does say some things. But at the end of the day, he's a guy playing the most stress-oriented position in the NFL. He's a guy who has done it at a pretty high level in his career at moments. And so he is warranted the chance to kind of talk and say what he wants at times. Even if I disagree, he is kind of warranted that ability. And so I do feel bad that this is the ending, if it is. But again, I don't really fully believe that we've seen the last of Derek Carr.